Lazarus Planet, Assault on Krypton, issue 1, and this is actually an anthology book with 4 stories, so there's a bunch of creatives that we'll get to as we're going through them. I did not know this was going to be 4 different stories. I was kind of expecting it to be just one thing that was, 40, 50 pages.
This is the most tenuous tie-in to an event I might have ever seen.
Well,
you didn't read a lot of the Dark Crisis ones, did you?
Well, here's the weird thing about this, is that this to me feels like one of those tie-ins to an event where, and we got a couple of them in Dark Crisis where it's like, here's a little anthology one shot, it's about 50 pages, but it has like 4 stories in it, and it feels just kind of like if you want to, bit of extra fluff. What's weird about this is that the main event of this is only 2 issues. We had the 1 issue already, and we'll have the Omega issue, end of next month. And after reading this, I'm like, how relevant are any of these one shots that are coming out going to be to the actual main thing?
I don't even dislike all the stories in this, but they all feel. I mean, I guess the very first one with Dreamer is the most relevant. Yeah,
because it mentions Fate and the helmet and all that stuff.
The rest of them, one of them's a tease for the Superman book, the John Kent stuff coming up.
Then there's the Action Comics back up with Power Girl.
Yeah. This is kind of nothing really to do with this Lazarus Planet.
Well, it's feeling like Lazarus Planet is being used as an inciting incident for things going forward.
Because John having electric powers is a setup in this.
It's reminding me a little bit of the Infinite Frontier stuff.
Yeah,
but the early, not the event itself, but we had the Arkham explosion issue. It's reminding me of that, just really stretched out over all these different books.
I wasn't very fond of this one shot. It's not necessarily that all of it's necessarily bad. It's just that I found it to be really tedious to get through, and in a week where I had 8 other books, some of which were quite meaty, I was I was begrudging this book as I was reading it.
It's definitely made me look at the rest of these that are coming up and be like, well, do I need to read any of these?
Yeah, and I'll probably still try the next one, but I did have a feeling as I was reading this, I'm like this is making me not want to read any of these.
Bro, you're right in my mind, because that's what going through and getting to the Mercy story and being like, I still have half a book left.
I know. See, when I got to the end of the first story and realized, it's going to be 4 shorts, I was like, oh god, there's 3 more. That was my feeling.
Yeah, and again, not that there's anything wrong with most of the stories, because I don't feel like they're bad necessarily. It's just on a week that I already have packed, they just feel superfluous.
It's the same problem I have when we have books like this, which is a bunch of 10 to 12-page stories, some 8-page stories even. Is I always have this feeling of few of them actually end up feeling like actual stories. They feel like little snippets to set up something for later, and I never really find them enjoyable that much to read on their own. There's the odd exception, there was that one Tom Taylor Supergirl story in that anthology 4 years ago that was really good, but by and large, very few of them end up standing out, and I end up just feeling annoyed that I read them. And this kind of felt like that to me. So the idea that I've got 7 more of these.
I'm looking at the next one now just to see do I want to? And the next one's the We Were Once Gods.
Yeah, okay. I guess I kind of want to read that because of the Shazam relevance.
It's got Dan Waters writing. It's got Philip Kennedy Johnson, Josie Campbell, and it's got Manapul on writing and art.
So that's a much better list of creators, because the creator list in this is not that exciting.
Well, and also calling this the Assault on Krypton, and then
well, all it really means is that they're mostly super related characters. It's Dreamer, it's John Kent, it's Power Girl, and it's Mercy, who's one of the villains. So it's just characters related to Superman is what the umbrella is here.
Right, but what got me was the blurb on the setup page.
Oh yeah, the opening page that tells you of this story of once upon a time in Krypton there was a volcano.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
This is
then it was completely irrelevant to anything in the rest of it.
Because I was like, we're gonna get a story about how this relates to Kal-El and Kara, or even
thematically,
Girl, right?
The idea that
I straight up thought they were going to use Dreamer as a framing device to show us.
Me too.
Oh, this is what happened on Krypton.
Yep. And then not at all.
None of it. No. Yeah, I did not like then. So you got Nicole Maines writing the first story, which is the Dreamer story. Which fair enough. And you got Skylar Partridge on art, and
So I think that is by far the most relevant of of these.
And it's also the only. I want to say that I didn't even recognize the other writers. Like, I only know who Nicole Maines is because she's the actor from the show.
Yeah,
the other writers.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm forgetting someone obvious, but when I was going through it, I didn't remember.
Second team, C.S. Pacat.
I don't really know.
Is writing, and Scott Godlewski on art. Which
Godlewski I know, but but Pacat I don't know.
The Mercy story was Frank Barbier.
I know that name.
He did some stuff.
I've heard
recently.
of the name.
Yeah, and Sammy Basri on art, which again we've seen pop up on it, and honestly on a lot of these shorter stories in backups and things like that.
Yeah, okay. But
the last one is Leah Williams, who I have read. I've seen she's done a fair bit of Marvel work.
Okay, well I don't know.
And then Margaret Savage.
It was a weird, like, because normally you have at least one of those stories will be a big name, like a big name to to readers who are like, okay, you've got your Mark Waid in the first story, and then the other three are, you know, people who were given backups to like, you know, test them out, stretch their legs, you know, and
which
practice
it seems
the
like
craft.
they're treating Nicole Maines as the big name here, which I guess in the grand scheme of these, she kind of is.
Yeah, but not from like a reading perspective.
No, she's written a handful of Dreamer things at this point. I think it's notable to me that this is the first time I've seen her with a credit without a co-writer.
That's true.
Remember.
Yeah, I know that.
But I appreciate that she has a complete grasp on her character. That and so the stuff to dealing with Dreamer feels right, if that makes any sense, right? Some of the other dialogue between some of the other characters I felt was off, but that's, I feel like, someone that's not familiar with writing comics, right?
Yeah, you can acknowledge that she's still relatively new at this.
But like once Dreamer got to the Khalid dream where he's a doctor, and you know she pops out of the closet and he starts questioning things. He's like, no, you're not. You're Dr. Fate. And he's like, no. I felt like all that stuff really landed really well.
That was the fun concept part of it, because but there's a lot of setup to get to that point. But once you get to that point, it's like, okay, this idea that she's went into his dream, but he's having like a random dream where he's like a doctor, like in a hospital, and like there's some jokes to be had with that. And then of course Naboo like reaches out to her, and you know, she ends up going into wherever. But
well, I like the idea too that a Lord of Order is going to reach out to Dreamer because of how the powers work and whatever. You know, it's all about fixing things and keeping order versus chaos. Yeah. So
but there was a couple of details in it I liked, but I was expecting something a bit more impactful. And the first story is usually the most important one, so this one feeling like just okay made me feel really down about the rest of the issue.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say I did not like the John story that much because the voices felt off. You know, at least John's voice felt a little bit off compared to what we've been reading in Taylor's, you know, book.
Yeah. I mean, John's story is him with he basically catches this thief who's looting during everything, and this guy's
stealing like nice clothes and stuff, which was funny.
But this guy, like a lot of people during this Lazarus Planet crisis, is randomly been given powers because of the Lazarus
lava powers
in there. Yeah, so he ends up helping John, and John's trying to tell him how to be a hero, but he's still kind of nefarious in some ways, and you know, whatever. But it ends with him like stealing John's cape. But the big thing though is that when he first encounters him, that John sort of like his powers conk out, but he has like a sort of an electric moment. So and obviously we know we're doing Electric Superman with John coming up. So this is the setup for that. The actual story and interactions he has with this other character though, I didn't really get much out of it. Really.
No.
It's just like to be continued in what I think is the Tom Taylor.
Yeah, it is.
Coming up. So
I suspect I'm going to enjoy that more than I did this setup issue.
I really hope so.
I like the cut of the character's jib, right? Because he's, you know, kind of razzing John this whole time for being a Boy Scout, and where he's like, "Is it still looting if you're stealing from people that are already stealing?" And John's like, "Yes, it's still bad." So you know that stuff worked, but some of the other, you know, him having volcano powers and John being like, "I hate volcanoes." And it reminded me of the sand stuff and, you know, Attack of the Clones. You know, it just wasn't there.
Well,
so
that's one of the worst movies ever made, Matt. So great comparison.
I'm saying. That's what it reminded me of. Oh,
dear.
But we're gonna jump to the Mercy story because that one I kind of enjoyed.
I didn't. It's because all it is Mercy's hand basically. Mm-hmm. She's got like a cyborg style hand now that can turn into a cannon or like a metal claw, and that's her power.
Just like the giant wolf things. With the
probably
like her fighting monsters. And I like her pointing out to Lex, where Lex was like, you know, let him go, and she's like, well, no, that's where all of the servers are that are all your like financial stuff. And I was like, okay, go save it. And you know, I just like after the last two or three character interactions were kind of like, you know, this one was a step up.
It just felt like a nothing story to me. And so and while we're on it, the Power Girl story that comes last, it's her falling through lots of pretty colors for about 10 pages, and then she runs into Omen.
It's Savage doing what Savage does, right?
Which means it looks great.
Looks great. But I almost kind of wish it was almost like a silent story where I could just enjoy the art, because I have no idea what was going on. And
I don't know. So, some of these faces have got like these dead like eyes. There's this like weird like sex doll quality to the eyes where they're just like looking into my soul.
Yeah, no, there's a few panels like that where the faces aren't spot on, but it's the colors and just the layouts are gorgeous.
Yeah. But just like I forgot what happened to Power Girl in Lazarus Planet Alpha, and I just read that last week.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
Which is it the one where there's a panel where it says likewise?
Are you asking me?
What?
Yeah, is that the panel you're looking at?
Oh, that's one of them. Is that one? And then the page after, when they're flying alongside each other, it's Lilith looking at her. I also think Elmo looks quite creepy.
Yeah.
Do you know what she looks like? She looks like Megan from Megan. She looks like she's got the like I'm going to kill you because I'm a killer doll look in her face.
Yeah, but we also get the phrase "wing doodle" in there. You know.
Yeah.
Matt, I hate so many things that you choose to be.
The fact that you hate that so much makes me like it so much more. So, you know, that's just
for the audio listeners. Matt gave me a pause there when I said that.
Yeah. But yeah, like look, we all know my track record with recognizing redheaded characters. I had no idea this was Omen. I was like, oh, what's Ivy doing here? And why is she dressed like that?
And then she goes, I'm Omen, by the way. You're like,
yeah,
cool.
What?
Amusingly, I actually immediately got that this was Omen, despite my record of red-headed characters possibly being mistaken.
Which is significantly worse.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a nothing. Like, see these books where it's like a bunch of 10 to 12 page stories. Mm-hmm. I end up feeling like they're mostly worthless. Like I find very few of them actually worthwhile reads because they don't have time to tell a story.
Yeah.
And then they charge you $8 for the pleasure of feeling like it was worthless.
Yep. Well, I had to spend extra money at the shop this week to get a discount, so this helped me put me over.
Honestly, what this bit convinced me of is that I can skip all of these one shots. I probably won't skip the next one because that was a good list of creators. But I could theoretically skip all of these one shots, come back to the Omega issue, and that'll be fine to read.
What about the 4-issue mini one?
Oh, that comes after?
That was in the that was in the solicits.
Well, that's a 4-issue mini, so at least that has a chance of being a story.
But that also feels like it's cleaning up threads from Wonder Woman, which we haven't been reading because it's Cloonan and
yeah, but it's also Wilson and it's also dealing with Shazam stuff.
Yeah, depends if the Shazam stuff's important. Like if the Shazam story in this next thing feels like it's leading into that, then
I'll read it. Yeah.
Then it may be worth reading if you're enjoying that.
Had I not got my discount from after buying this book, I would have been a lot more upset.
Yeah, you know? I cannot recommend this, and I will say that these one shots are now on notice for me. Like, you know, it depends who the creators are, and it depends like how many books I have that week. These will be the first thing that is cut if I am not even like sensing a whiff of talent.
Yeah,
my nostrils will be out and sniffing out quality.
Yeah. Gotcha.
All right.
Pete said one shots are on site now.
Matt, what are you rating Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton?
I'm giving this a 6.
Generous. Connor, what you give it?
I'm going to give it a 4, but also I am going to retract the previous statement. This was only $5, not $8. But, I mean, that's still too much.
Still too much.
Still help me get my discount. We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the 4.
Yeah.
There's a
All
bit of a
right,
shorty.
then I'm gonna give it a 4.5. Strike the 6 from the record.